My name is Rosie Smith, and I'm a Citizen Empowerment Coordinator here at American Promise. Again, a big thank you for everyone tuning in tonight, or maybe you're listening to this recording afterwards, but either way, you're stepping up to save our democracy, so thank you. The purpose of this call is to inspire you about our work to get big money out of politics and to inspire you to come to our National Citizen Leadership Conference, NCLC, which is this October 19th to the 21st in Washington, D.C., and to continue the training process for an impactful lobby day. You can all go to the NCLC website, which is www.citizenleaders.us, to learn more about the conference and to register. Again, that's www.citizenleaders.us. This is the second in a series of calls geared to have the most dynamic and exciting lobby day possible. Each call will build off the last, and I'm really excited for tonight's call. I think I hear some odd sounds on that. Okay. I think we're doing good. Let me just double check. All right. Sorry about that. As I was saying, I will repeat this later in the call, but if you have already had a meeting scheduled, please let me know. Send me the time, location, and your member of Congress, or if it's an aide that you're meeting with, the aide's name and the name of the member of Congress they work for. You can send that to me by email, and I'll loop folks in as appropriate. Most of you know this, but my email is rosies@americanpromise.net. That's rosies@americanpromise.net. If you're not in the American Promise Association and you want to set up a meeting, that's awesome. You can feel free to email me anytime, or press 1 on your keypad later on when we get to that section, and I'll know who to reach out to. So last month we heard from the one and only Sam Daly Harris, author of Reclaiming Our Democracy, and he talked about turning feelings of powerlessness into hope, and hope which we trust has gotten you excited about NCLC's Lobby Day and meetings with members of Congress. On this call, we're going to be talking specifically about how to schedule a meeting with your member of Congress. Our guest tonight is the lovely Alex Rocha. She is Florida Congressman Ted Deutch's scheduler, and she will give us an insider's look into how to effectively schedule these meetings. So while she's talking, be thinking of questions you might have. Then we're going to hear from APA leader Marie, who will share her experience in setting up a meeting with for Lobby Day and also share some tips and tricks. And then finally, we'll open up for any additional questions on NCLC. Our wonderful events manager, Susan, is joining us tonight, and she will talk about NCLC and Lobby Day and have an overview of the training and coaching calls that we'll provide in the next few months and during the NCLC itself to make the Lobby Day experience as impactful and effective. Sorry, that was some weird feedback for a second. But first I want to start with this. The Congressional Management Foundation does trainings for congressional staff, and they also do research with the staff. When staff were asked what had the most influence on a member of Congress who had not yet made up his or her mind on an issue, they asked about emails, phone calls, petitions, handwritten letters, and even visits from paid lobbyists. But the most effective means of communication was in-person visits from constituents. I can read this quick summary. It was, direct constituent interactions have more influence on lawmakers' decisions than any other advocacy strategy. In 3 surveys of congressional staff over a 10-year period, they found in-person visits from constituents would have some to a lot of influence on an undecided representative. Our Lobby Day is all about in-person visits from constituents, the most effective form of communication. And that's why we're really, really excited to have Alex on this call with us, who helps us set people up these meetings, who helps people set up these meetings every day. And Alex is the executive assistant to Congressman Ted Deutch, Florida's 22nd district, and has served in this role since Congressman Deutch entered Congress in 2010. So working from the Boca Raton office, Alex covers scheduling and meeting preparation needs in both Washington, D.C. and South Florida. And Alex, before I turn it over to you, I want to give you an idea of the kind of people who are on this call. You'll be talking with people like Sandy Clements, no relation to our president, Jeff Clements, that's just a fun coincidence, in Gainesville, Florida, who is organizing community members around the issue of money in politics and plans on taking the momentum gained from Lobby Day in October back with her to start a chapter in Gainesville. And people like Ellen Greenbush, who's had meetings with both the Democrat and Republican members of Congress in Portland, Ohio. That's an idea of the kind of people you're talking to. Really, really dedicated and passionate civil servants just amazing people from across the country that are working really hard for this issue. With that, it's my pleasure to turn it over to you, Alex. You are now officially off mute. Why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself and go ahead and let us know why you're here.
Well, thank you very much, Rosie, for having me. As Rosie said, my name is Alex. I've been with Congressman Ted Deutch since he's been in office back in 2015 of April. I was also with him in the private sector when he was with me, so I've technically been with him for 20 years now.
Wow.
So, we've been together a long time. I pretty much know everything there is to know about my boss. So when I came into the private sector and going into the government sector, it was a very, very big difference. Meetings are only 15 minutes and not an hour. It's fast-paced, and it's just a different world. What I can say is my job is to try to help everybody out as much as I can, and then hopefully my boss can do his job and keep our constituents happy. So here are a few things that I can suggest. If you know when your visiting day is going to be, you need to do a little homework. You know there's 3 buildings on the congressional side of the U.S. House of Representatives. We have Cannon, we have Rayburn, and one more building which has slipped my mind. Anyways, you need to log out when you're going to be visiting, and you need to write down the members you want to visit and where they are in the building. Because the last thing you want to do is schedule in Cannon and then turn around and go back to Rayburn and switch back and forth. So it may be better if you break down into smaller groups, and each group takes a building, and you start from the top floor and work your way down and try to get as many appointments as you can. What I normally do is I start taking meeting requests 2 weeks out. Anything more than that is fine, but it tends to get lost in the cracks if I get too busy. So anywhere between 2 to 3 weeks out is a safe number for your request. Most reps have schedulers which you can look up and email directly, and some of them have specific scheduling addresses that you send to, so it goes to an email address and the scheduler will eventually pick it up. I tend to give mine out because I like to have a one-on-one contact with everybody, so I constantly get flooded. But what I can tell you is if you build a relationship in advance, if you have a relationship with the office or with their aide, and they can help remind the scheduler that you need 5 minutes, 10 minutes with the member. That's the only real way of getting a guarantee to see the member. You have to also remember that these members have committees that they're assigned to, and my boss, for instance, you can't schedule to see him until the afternoon because my boss happens to have committees all morning long. So depending on who you want to meet and what committees they sit on, you may need to do a little homework and see when those committees take place, and then you know when to ask. It's a lot of time consuming, but usually if it's all one particular committee and you can see when they meet, it just makes it easier for when you ask because then you've narrowed down your no's. just like there are some that can take morning appointments and their committees are later in the afternoon. Now, our office hours are normally around 9 to 6, 6:30 during the week, and my boss will actually see people late into the evening. Not everybody will do that. When you're asking, I suggest you to 2 to 3 weeks out, send an email to the scheduler explaining who you are, what the group is, what the topic of discussion is, what dates you're looking at, and nicely just say if we could please meet with the member. And, of course, if not, take their legislative staff, their aide. I can tell you firsthand, our LAs and LDs, all of our staff members are excellent, and they're all seniors. They've been with him for the 10 years, and anything that you have to relay with them does get to the congressman. Each office is different, and, of course, there are some members that really don't take a lot of appointments. But if you can at least get in with their aides, that's still a foot in the door. If you have enough time to establish yourself, call the office, talk to the legislative assistant who handles that matter that you want to discuss, and build a rapport with them, send them an email saying thank you. And as the years go by, if you keep doing what you're doing, you tend to get the same person most of the time, and they'll know you by name, and they're happy to give you 10, 15 minutes. And that's basically pretty much it. It's just squaring off where the members are in which of the 3 buildings so that you can coordinate and balance your time nicely. And remember, they're only going to give you maybe 10, 15 minutes. So you've got to give yourself time to walk from room to room. But if you do it right, you're on the same floor. You can hit them all much quicker than running back and forth.
Absolutely. That's a great tip. I'd also encourage people to wear comfy shoes too, probably, because with all that running and walking, like, do not wear heels or other things like that. Thank you so much for sharing, Alex. I'm sure like everyone has 1,000,003 questions, but we'll try and keep it to 10 or 15 minutes. I'll just start off with a question of, like, how did you first get involved in this kind of legislative action field? Like, what brought you to work with the congressman?
Well, he was an attorney, and I was a legal secretary, so I've always been his assistant. So that helped.
Wonderful. Yes, that definitely helps. And then, so you mentioned earlier about the time frame of when to schedule a meeting. If someone reaches out to the representative or the scheduler, such as yourself, and they don't hear back, let's say within a week or two, what advice would you give them? Because, yes, it can get bogged down in the emails, and persistence is key, but do you have any other advice?
Definitely reach back out, send a friendly reminder, and that always helps. It helps me, and I don't take offense to it. And usually I can answer pretty quickly, but you have to remember each scheduler works differently in the office, and depending on where the ask comes from, they may have to sit with their chief of staff, or they may have to do a staff meeting with the congressperson, and they go through a list of how many meetings they can take that one day, what groups are coming in. So it's not always the scheduler's choice. In most offices, it isn't. So if they give you a no or they ignore you, by the second time, if they're ignoring you, that pretty much means that they're trying not to say no to you in a nice way.
Gotcha.
So then you can come back and ask for an aide. Is the LA available? We'll be more than happy to meet with them.
Okay. Good to know. All right. So you pretty much, during your speech, answered all the other questions that I was going to ask, so thank you for being so thorough. I'm now going to open up the group So feel free to press 1 on your keypad if you want to ask Alex any question at all regarding scheduling or tips or anything like that. Oh my gosh, okay, everyone is very excited. I'm going to start with Joan. Joan, you're now off mute. Let us know where you're calling in from, and what's your question?
Okay. I'm calling from South Jersey, and I wanted to ask, we have a tri-county chapter that covers 3 counties in South Jersey. And last year we succeeded in getting a meeting with Bonnie Watson-Coleman, who actually is not, her district is actually not in the counties we cover. I don't believe we have an APA in New Jersey that is where there's a member in her district. So very graciously, not she herself, but one of her aides met with us, and she was exploring, signing the candidate pledge and stuff like that. Do you still, do you recommend that we can, and we want to try to set up another meeting with her this year, despite the fact that the situation is the same. Do you feel that is still a worthwhile thing to do if we approach it from sort of a statewide perspective?
It doesn't hurt to ask. I always say, just throw it out there. You never know what you're going to get. I know for a fact there are many times where my boss can't meet with the constituents. However, we do take precedence for those that live in the district first, and then we take asks from outside the district, and most of the time they're with the aides. So that's not unusual, but definitely ask. I would concentrate on those issues with your congressperson directly, and then start broadening your ask from there. But there are plenty of congresspeople who have passion about the same issues, and even though they're not in your district, their people will still meet with you. So definitely ask.
That's great to know. I'm going to go ahead and now call on Floyd. Floyd, why don't you're off mute. Let us know where you're calling from and what's your question.
Hi, I'm Floyd. I'm in Seattle. I'm pretty new to all of this process. The recent political situation is motivating a lot of people. First of all, I am coming to the lobby day and the conference, and I've never actually talked to my congressperson. And the other thing is I want to know if what Alex has been talking about applies to senators as well.
Yes,
because I'm
absolutely.
supposed to schedule a meeting with both of my senators and my representative.
Okay. Yes, we both work the schedules the same way. However, their voting schedule and their work times are different than the House side. And you have to remember the Senate side is quite a long ways away from the House side. So concentrate on one day for each side. Don't try, you're never going to make it in time if you're going to schedule on both sides. So I would definitely, if you're going to, what days are your conferences, or are they all different?
So our conference is the 19th to the 21st, but our lobby day is on the 21st. So all of our lobbying will be on one day.
October?
October. Right. I'm not sure if I mentioned that yet. October.
19th through the 21st?
October 19th to the 21st. So the 19th and 20th we'll be doing breakouts and panels and talks and networking and everything like that, and then training for the lobby day, which will be Monday, October 21st.
Okay, here's a bit of information. I can tell you right now that it's going to be very tough to find House members on the 21st until later in the afternoon. They don't vote until 6 o'clock that night. So go through your list and see who's there. But I know my boss can't take a meeting on that first day of fly-in. It's kind of an unwritten rule. Days they fly in and days they fly out, they normally don't have time to meet with people because they're trying to catch up from either the end of the week's work or the week before. You may want to try your Senate side because they may already be there. So that's something you have to keep in mind.
That's really good advice. Thank you. Just
for future reference, I'm sorry, Rosie, just for future
references,
please. when you're planning the lobby days, I tell people all the time, the House comes out with their new voting schedule Thanksgiving week every year. So if you look up the majority whip schedule for 2020 at the end of November, you pretty much have the entire year's schedule calendar there, so you know when their fly-in days are and fly-out days, and that may help prepare you to spend more useful days while you're there, because on the weekends they all disappear.
Exactly. That's good to know. I was definitely familiar with that schedule, but that's good for everyone else to know, just for like other types of lobbying in the future. Joan, is your hand still up for another question, or was that an accident?
Yeah, no, I had another quick question.
Oh, perfect. Great. Just wanted to make sure.
I just wanted to clarify something that I thought, Alice, that you said before, and I'm not sure if I understood it correctly. If I understood you right, you said when you first contact the office to contact through the scheduler to ask for a meeting with the rep. And if that doesn't work, I think you said to contact where you don't think you're going to get to meet the rep, him or herself, to contact directly seeking a meeting with the legislative aide, not through the scheduler, but through the legislative aide directly. Is that what you said?
No. Let me rephrase. So everything goes through the scheduler, and
okay.
He or she will basically let you know whether the congressman or woman will meet with you or whether it's going to be shifted over to an aide. I always tell them the congressman's schedule is busy this week. However, I'm going to point you to so-and-so who handles these issues. They'll contact you directly. That's what I usually do, and that way you know at least you're getting in with somebody.
Okay, thanks.
Welcome.
That's a really good question. Thank you, Joan. Marie, your hand is up, so I'm going to go ahead and take you off mute. Let us know where you're calling in from, and what's your question?
Yeah, hi, Rosie. Marie Hesselder-Kimmel from Tri-County, New Jersey, American Promise also. And I'm going to be giving the information of my experience. But I was going to comment on the, what Alex had said about not being able to make it back and forth from the Senate side to the congressional side. And actually, I have some details about how you definitely can do that as you schedule your lobby day, because we do just have the one lobby day, and also because we're visiting mostly with our own congressional people, not just trying to hit as many as we can. We were able to do 2 different congressional offices last year in the afternoon and see both senators in the morning, the staff in the morning. So I'll go into a little more detail with that, when it's my turn.
For sure. Thanks, Maria. Thanks for letting us know what we'll be talking about shortly. And I see, great, Floyd's hand is up again. Floyd, do you have another question, or did you just press 1?
Yes, I have another question. I'm wondering, since I'm in Seattle, is the situation different? From what I heard Alex say, her congressman is traveling back and forth, but he's in Florida and on the East Coast. Is it going to be different for my congressional delegation? They're not going to be traveling on the weekend. It's a long trip.
For sure. Yeah, it depends on each. I'm sure Alex can answer this to way more specificity than I can, but I just know that some congressmen do not travel home every weekend. My own congressman from New York, Lee Zeldin, he comes home maybe once a month, or he's back very rarely, even though New York's not too far. So it really depends on the congressman and depends on the scheduler. But go ahead and you can say more to that, Alex.
Rosie, I absolutely agree with you. It depends on the congressperson. I happen to know a couple of Californians, and they travel every weekend. Hawaii is a little bit more difficult.
Yeah.
That's true. But if you live in Hawaii, then I wouldn't mind making that commute every other week.
Right. But, yeah, it doesn't hurt to ask, but if they say that it can happen, then you know they're traveling. But, yeah, usually on the West Coast, those people don't come home as often. Depends on how young they are and if they have young kids.
Absolutely.
If they're older, yeah, they tend to stay and they don't go and travel as much. But like I said, it's just up to the office.
Really good point. We have time for just about one more question. Does anyone have anything else they'd like to ask Alex for? Oh, yep. Okay. So we have John calling. John, let us know where you're calling from and what's your question.
Hello. I'm calling from Boston, Massachusetts. And yeah. And my question is, as a scheduler, I'm curious to know, are there common things that might annoy you about people who are in the process of requesting meetings, and how can we avoid starting off on the wrong foot?
That's a really good question.
That is a good question. I'm kind of the wrong person to ask because, number one, I'm probably one of the oldest schedulers up there. I've been doing this a long time, and I just believe that we're in the service industry, so I'm a different breed than the 22-year-old that might be working scheduling. So I have I'm more seasoned and more patient, but I can tell you, please and thank you. You can't go wrong with that, and try not to sound pushy. Just keep it very simple. Just say, we're here on lobbying day. We do X, Y, and Z. We are respectfully requesting a meeting with the congressman or congresswoman on these days. Please let us know. And they got a job to do, and they're used to it. Just be nice.
I couldn't think of better advice to end on than just be nice. It carries on to so many other things in life. But just especially this, just be nice. Thank you so much, Alex. And thank you, everyone, for your questions. And so it's an honor to hear from you. You're welcome to join us for the rest of the call, but I understand 8:30 and a Monday, so feel free to head out. But I'm now thrilled to pass it over to Marie, who has some meetings already lined up for Lobby Day, and she is going to be sharing her experience with Lobby Day last year and other tips and tricks from a person as a schedulee, not scheduler. So thank you again, Alex, and Marie, you are off mute.
Hi, everybody. So as I had said before, I'm Marie Henselder-Kimmel, and I'm the co-founder, co-leader of Tri-County, New Jersey APA. And that was Joan, my co-leader, who was on earlier. And we launched in July of 2017. So last year was our first NCLC to attend. And we were successful in having meetings with the staff of both of our New Jersey senators and with, as Joe mentioned, with an adjacent district congresswoman and with our own congressman in person on Lobby Day last year. If you've downloaded the Lobby Day training material, you've already seen the directions there with links to identify your congressperson and senator. So I would suggest looking up their websites on house.gov and senate.gov. And our experience here from our, with scheduling our meetings last year and so far mine this year was I would encourage you to submit the meeting request through the request a meeting link directly on the government website. Alex sounds like she handles things a little more personally in Representative Ted Deutch's office, which is what I would only expect of Representative Ted Deutch's office. But it seems like most of the other offices do like to get the basic information through the government request a website. And also, Alex detailed she takes meeting requests 2 to 3 weeks in advance, but last year we had an in-district meeting with Senator Cory Booker's staff, and we told them that Lobby Day was coming up in, that was December of 2017, and so Lobby Day was June of 2018, and they said, try to put your request in as soon as possible to get on the schedule in D.C. because the office time does book up pretty quickly. So they really suggested several months in advance. So I think every office does kind of handle the timing of the meetings differently. The other thing Alex mentioned, 15 minutes. In the 4 meetings we were able to have between 30 and 45 minutes with the staff members or with, actually I think we had the longest meeting directly with Representative Norcross. And he takes the train back and forth from New Jersey every weekend, and he actually was late on the train, so we met first with his legislative director, and then he came in and we continued the meeting with him. So every situation is differently. You can get that information once you get to talk directly with the scheduler or email directly with the scheduler after your initial request goes in. It will ask for a reason for the meeting, and I detail that I'm asking for a meeting with whoever the member of Congress is, and I mentioned if the congressperson isn't available, that we would like to meet with a staffer right in that initial request. And I don't think that's taken away from our ability to meet with the congressperson directly if they were available, but that Monday situation where they don't come in until late in the afternoon or the early evening for votes is a problem with the Monday lobby days. And maybe one of our future conferences will take that into account. We might have a different day to have a lobby day. But I say we're a chapter of American Promise, a cross-partisan national citizen advocacy group working to pass an amendment to fix our democracy. We want to discuss the member of Congress's support for a constitutional amendment that would limit big money in politics and limit political spending by legal entities like corporations. And then that way they kind of know what we're going to get at the meeting. They know which staffer is most appropriate. For the meeting requests with our senators, and actually I probably put it in the other one too, our New Jersey delegation last year was, I think, 16 members. So we specified that to make sure that they had a large enough conference room because we really wanted all of our members to be able to attend together with the senator's staffer, and we were able to do that. So that worked out great. And then so even for the congressional offices, it helps them to know how many attendees are going to come so that they get the appropriate sized conference room. Last year, the senator's offices particularly wanted the names and the towns of residence of the attendees, but those specifics could be given much closer to lobby day. You don't have to have that in your initial request. I would also, as a tip, I would suggest you make a copy of what you put into your initial request or just jot down the details that you send, because if you haven't had a reply from the office, when you call, you might want to tell them, I submitted it on such and such day. When you you can ask for the scheduler specifically, and you could get to talk to that person directly, or you might have to leave them a voice message to call you back. And if you can give them when you submitted the initial request and the date that you're looking for, you can leave that message. I can just give you my experience so far this year. I'm scheduling the meetings with both of our New Jersey senators, Booker and Menendez, and I submitted the request on the same day, the end of July. Within a day or so, I heard back from by email from Senator Booker's office, and within a few days after that, I heard that we could not meet with him, but we could meet with his chief counsel, who we met with last year. and that person was on vacation, but he'd get back to me. And in under 2 weeks, I had a time and a day, the date, the time, and confirming the size of our group. I have yet to speak to anybody from the scheduling office, from Menendez's office. I submitted the request the same day. I called the next week, left a voicemail for the scheduler in D.C., still didn't hear back. Then I called the local office, spoke to the local staffer and said, I haven't heard back. They forwarded a message to the scheduler. And then just today, I called again to D.C. and asked again to speak to the scheduler. They said, oh, not available. So I left another voicemail, and I resubmitted all the information again on an email. So I know we'll hear back from them. We did last year, and we had a successful meeting. I included the name of that staffer from last year. But the takeaway, just like Alex said, don't get discouraged. Be polite and be persistent, and you'll get the meeting scheduled. Kind of what Alex was saying about where the Senate offices are versus the House office buildings. The Senate office buildings are on one side, so I would suggest pick whether it's the morning or the afternoon and try to get both of them scheduled in the same part of the day. Maybe the morning is better because then you can get those done. Head over for lunch because that's going to be in one of the House office buildings according to the schedule that's already been posted for Lobby Day. And then start seeing do your congressional visits. And then the wrap-up is scheduled in one of the House office buildings as also. I think that was at 5 o'clock. Rosie, you could correct me if I'm wrong on that. But that kind of limits your time having to zigzag across where the Capitol is. That is about 4/10 of a mile or a half a mile from one side of where the Senate is to the other side to where the House congressional office buildings are. And they're it's a long couple blocks. So like Alex said, if you have a couple different office buildings to go to, try to get all your meetings in one building scheduled around the same time frame. But like I said, we had success in having 30 to 45-minute meetings, and we just had the two scheduled. So, that worked out pretty well. It is a lot of walking, like was mentioned. Wear comfortable shoes. I wore comfortable shoes, but I didn't break them in advance, so I still got out of the day, which was well worth it. But that's definitely a good piece of advice. And don't be shy to call back if you get a meeting time, and then you find out, if you could get a little bit more of a window in between, you could squeeze in another meeting. Call back and ask if maybe they'll adjust the meeting time a little bit. We were able to do that last year with one of our Senate meetings to be able to get both Senate meetings in the morning and then be able to have a time for the two different meetings in the afternoon with the congressional leaders. The way, Joan probably forgot this, but the way we got the meeting with Representative Watson Coleman, who we are not her constituents, is actually, I had seen our legislative director in Representative Norcross's office. We'd met in the in-district office several different times and had established a little bit of a relationship with her, and I had asked for her help in being able to contact the staff in the other congressional offices for the New Jersey delegation. And she gave me the information for the legislative director for for Congresswoman Watson Coleman. And she also sent an email to her colleague in Watson Coleman's office as a way of introduction. So when I got in touch with the staffer there, she was like, oh, yes, Mary Cruz told me, and yes, we'll definitely get you a meeting. And we got in to meet with the chief counsel for the Congresswoman on Lobby Day, and we had a very receptive meeting. And she never signed on to the HJR 31, but she is already signed on to HJR Res 2. So, yeah. So if you don't have a friend or don't have a good relationship with the staffer in the office, you could get a friend who lives in a different congressional meeting to submit the initial request on the website, because it seems like it's probably restricted to constituents mostly. So my closing comment would be I hope that you attend Lobby Day and that you're successful in scheduling quite a few meetings. I found Lobby Day to be very inspirational and a very empowering experience to stand together on the steps of the Capitol with my fellow APA members and with the other American Promise Lobby Day attendees, because I think there were about 150 or 200 who attended Lobby Day last year, and the flags were flapping for our group picture on the Capitol steps, and then we all went off to go, and we walking into the office of your congressional representative to ask for their support for a fix to our democracy is very empowering, and I'm looking forward to sharing that experience with all of you on October 21st, our Lobby Day this year.
Yay! Thank you so much for sharing, Marie. That was all really helpful and really inspiring tips. Definitely, I appreciate and will reiterate the sentiment. Buy your comfy shoes now and break them in before October. We have 53 days to go until NCLC, which is super, super exciting. I'm now going to kick it over real quick to our wonderful, fantastic events manager, Susan Muller, who will do a quick overview of the National Citizens Leadership Conference and then I'll take a few questions to wrap it up. So go ahead, Susan. You are off mute.
Hi, wonderful. Hi, thanks for the intro. For anybody who might have missed the last call, we expect 300 citizens, elected officials, leaders, and youth from all walks of life to attend the National Citizen Leadership Conference in the Metro D.C. area. This year we're going to have a day-and-a-half conference that will be held at the Hilton Crystal City Hotel in Arlington, Virginia, with the Citizen Lobby Day on Capitol Hill on Monday, October 21st, as we've been talking about. We've secured a block of rooms at a discount price of $139 at the Hilton, so now is a good time to register for NCLC if you haven't already, and also book a room at our host hotel, as we anticipate the rooms to sell out at this discounted rate, plus the room rate's not guaranteed after September 17th. So some of the feedback from past NCLC attendees has been overwhelmingly positive, with comments as, quote, I feel hope and like I know what to do for the first time in a long time. Another quote was, we came back really charged up with a ton of contacts, all with the same passion of restoring our democracy. Thanks. And one last comment was, the speakers were excellent and very inspiring, and the sessions were very informative. It was just a great event, so I urge everyone to do everything they can to get to D.C. because it's a really special event. So we're proud about that, and for 2019, we're going to make it just as special. So we have speakers that are going to lead talks, plus we're going to be offering 12 breakout sessions at the conference and a lot of workshops on a number of varying topics. You can see the current NCLC speakers on our website, citizenleaders.us, including John Pudner, Doris Kearns-Goodwin, Deborah Winger, Steve Lipscomb, and of course our spectacular American Promise President Jeff Clements, with few more speakers actually to be announced. So there'll be numerous opportunities at the conference and even at Lobby Day for everyone to connect, network, and learn from one another. At the conference on Saturday and Sunday, we'll be providing the training like Rosie mentioned to prepare for Monday's Citizen Lobby Day. Then early Monday morning, we'll head to Capitol Hill to meet our members of Congress. So we're going to start, as Marie mentioned, we're going to start Citizen Lobby Day with a group picture on Capitol Hill at 8 a.m., which was great last year. And then we're going to do a celebration march on Congress to the Senate side from 8:30 to 9:30. So I agree with Marie. If it works best, if it is possible, to arrange your meetings on the Senate side. And then we will go to the House side in your comfortable shoes. The Rayburn cafeteria on the House side will be our meeting area again, as it was last year, and we'll have a lunch and a wrap-up on the Cannon side, so that's the House side. So and we're hoping to get some Ben & Jerry's ice cream there, so we're still working on that, but that's a little benefit for a little bonus for everybody. So I hope you will join us for the conference and Lobby Day on October 19th to the 21st. And I'm going to pass it back to Rosie to open it up for some Q&A.
Yeah, Awesome. Thank you so much, Susan. I really thank you for sharing, and I couldn't think of a better way to spend my Monday than lobbying and getting ice cream, so I don't see any reason why you shouldn't come to NCLC. So the last couple minutes of this call, again, thank you all so much for taking time out of your busy Mondays to join us for this call tonight. Go ahead, if you have any questions on the conference or lobby day or anything we talked about today, go ahead and press 1 on your keypad so I know to call on you. And oh, here we go. Hands flying up. Great. I'm going to call on Liz first. Go ahead, Liz. You're off mute. Where are you calling in from, and what's your question? Maybe there was technical difficulties with Liz. That's okay. We can come back to that. Now I'm going to call on Matthew. Matthew, you are off mute. Go ahead and let us know where you're calling from, and what's your question?
Hey, yes. This is Matt. I'm calling actually from Arlington, Virginia, so I'm super excited for everybody to come into the conference.
Awesome.
I'm excited to attend. I was wondering, going back to scheduling some of the meetings. So it sounds like it's very dependent on group size. And what if we don't know for certain, how many people are going to be there right away? Or, when is it a good time to say, that's it, we're going to tell them that this is how many people are coming, and can we tell them, oh, we actually have more?
Yeah.
What is kind of the best experience with that? I don't know.
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. So myself and Kimberly, the co-citizen empowerment coordinator, that's our job, is to help schedule and help facilitate these meetings. But when you're first making the ask of making that initial request, sometimes they don't ask for a number. Myself, when I was scheduling my meeting with my representative, they did ask for a number, so I just said 3 because there'll at least be myself and then a coworker of mine, and then maybe someone else from New York will sign up. However, if more or less people sign up, then I would just recommend 2 weeks and then 1 week before the concert, just send them two emails to say, hey, our group size grew or shrank, it'll be this much. Try to have no more than 10 people because, one, that's just hard to coordinate with people, but also you don't want to come off like you're bombarding your Congress representative either. So I would say encourage people to join you for sure, but also don't crowd the representative. So as for timing, again, I would just say send them 2 emails. You can call if you'd like to as well, but I would just recommend 2 emails 2 weeks before and then 1 week before the concert. Just let them know that the group size has changed. They won't say like, well, we can't have this meeting anymore. They just might move you to a different room. But that's why Kimberly and I are here to help with that conversation and to help schedule everyone. I hope that was helpful. I'm now going to call on Monica. Monica, let us know where you're calling from and what's your question?
Hi, it's Monica from Montclair, New Jersey. I have a really quick question for Susan. It appears that the only rooms at Crystal are the 1 king size. Was that the only option available for the 139?
They are king size, but they will actually bring in a cot at the same price for us because they ran out of doubles. So if you want to share a room with someone, you can still get that same price where they would normally increase the price for doing that. So that's a very good question.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. And thank you, Susan, for knowing the answer to that. I'm now going to call on Floyd. Floyd, you are off mute. What's your question?
Before I ask my question, a small piece of information. I don't get to D.C. very often because it's on the opposite coast. So my wife and I are coming, and we were going to add on a couple of days to, basically be tourists. And when I called the hotel to reserve the rooms, they were willing to extend the group rate for the conference for our extended stay, just as a FYI to anyone else.
Oh, wow. Good to know.
And my question is, I'm losing track of the previous caller names, but they were talking for like half an hour or so. What do you talk about? I can't imagine talking for that long. And then related to that is my congresswoman is a sponsor of the legislation. So is there anything I can tell her or say to her that she doesn't already know?
Yes, those are both fantastic questions. To answer your first one about, like, what do you talk about? So, time goes shockingly fast, and if anyone that, like, has had an experience with talking, like Marie or Joan for that amount of time and wants to chime in after me, feel free to raise your hand. I'll call on you. But for one, you could also just, like, share your story about, like, why are you interested in this type of work, and then they will get interested and they will share their story about why this issue matters to them. But you can also, like, talk about other issues that are kind of related to money and politics, like what brought you to this conference. And that's just good. Like, Congresspeople want to hear from their representatives. They're not going to kick you out or, like, and 30 minutes, again, goes by shockingly fast. To answer your, remind me again, I'm sorry, the second question was related to?
My congresswoman is one of the sponsors of the legislation.
Right. Thank you for reminding me. That's great that she's already a supporter. The big ask for people that are supporters is that to reach out to people that aren't supporters, because we're not there yet. Like, there's only for HJR 2 and HJR 48 and SJR 51, there is one Republican co-sponsor for HJR 48, or HJR 2, sorry. And for SJR 51, there isn't a Republican co-sponsor just yet. So we're just encouraging representatives to reach out to their Republican colleagues and just show that they are supportive and get them on board with this as well. And not every Democrat is on board with it yet either. So just continue networking, continue pushing for people to get on board with this, because if they're on board with it, then their friends that are also representatives can get on board with it, and then we're just that much closer to passing this amendment. I see Marie's hand is up, so I'm going to call on her to just shed a little light on what she talked about during her meeting. Go ahead, Marie, you're off mute.
Yeah, hi. So if you have downloaded the Lobby Day training material, or if you listen to the call with Sam Daly Harris, it's a great outline of how we handle our meetings with members of Congress, whether they're, local here, when you're at home, or if you're going to Lobby Day. And when you go through and you thank them for something that they've done, you have somebody giving their personal story of what's attracted them to the fight to get money out of politics. Particularly, you ask a question like Rosie said about, how does this affect how the congressperson has to spend their time that they're not legislating, or about any particular, issue, like particularly with Ted Deutch, although he's very active with co-sponsoring and so on, but the gun violence obviously would be an issue. And then when you're clarifying when you're asking a question and clarifying the request, it does, like Rosie said, it really does take more time. When we had a larger group going with the senators, then we had a few more people speaking, and we were trying to get more information from the staffer too. So if the time does fly by, and we want to have a conversation. We don't want to talk just at them. We want to have a conversation with them and develop that relationship.